We began our trip by arriving in Washington, D.C. After arriving, we went to our hotel and checked in. After checking in, we decided to go out for dinner. Our hotel was near the airport, as we had a late afternoon flight to catch the next day. These are a few of the old-style Washington, D.C. buildings we saw on our way to dinner. We look forward to doing a quick explore of downtown and all of the monuments before our evening flight to Cape Town the next day. We woke up at 5:30 the next morning and were at the D.C. monuments by 6:30. We wanted to see as much as possible and hit up a couple of museums. We began our exploration by hanging out with great Mr. Lincoln at the Lincoln Memorial. After we each took pictures with Mr. Lincoln, we proceeded to the Washington Monument. The sunrise glistening on the water created an amazing view. We wandered closer to the Washington Monument and the decorative circle that encompassed it. After the Washington Monument, we made our way past the White House, but were not able to get very close. We explored downtown trying to find a better photo op for the White House and came across the U.S. Treasury building. We eventually got closer to the White House, but it was behind a big fence. After viewing the Spy Museum, the American History Museum, and having lunch, it was time to go to South Africa. The day after arriving, we took an Uber out to Cape Point and the Cape of Good Hope. The views were stunning and the water looked beautiful. On the way there we saw baboons and ostriches. The Uber driver insisted that he wait for us, as he believed we would not find another Uber out there. We negotiated a great deal where he got paid half through the app and the rest in cash. Apparently, the ostriches were farmed and just put there for tourists. Afterward, we drove through Simon's Town and stopped to visit the penguins at Boulders Beach. We saw a whole lot of penguins, and even one with a baby. This is Camps Bay Beach, where we were staying in a service apartment. That is Lion's Head in the background. The next day was rainy, so we went to a market in the morning. Later, it cleared up, so we were able to hike up Lion's Head. This is the terrain we had to deal with. We also had to climb with staples and chains. The next day we went kayaking. We saw dolphins, penguins from Robben Island, and amazing views of Table Mountain, Lion's Head, and the Victoria and Alfred waterfront. Directly after our kayak trip, it was time for a quick lunch. We ate at Tasha's. Afterward, we headed for our next adventure, a zipline. We started off suiting up with our harnesses and helmets and then hopped on a jeep to our first of 7 ziplines. We both went down on our own, using a special glove to slow us down if we were coming down too fast. The ziplines with SA Forest Adventure was a blast.
How was it?
Good.
The next day, we decided to hike up Table Mountain. This hike would be much harder than hiking Lion's Head and would make us feel like mountain goats, according to my cousin. The terrain was very strenuous, but there were no staples and chains like on Lion's Head, and we took lots of breaks to admire the view and take photos. Some locals were nice enough to take our photos on the way up. These locals were sustaining themselves by drinking from a stream on their way up. This was a risk that we could not take. On the way up we saw views of Cape Town below, and the face of Table Mountain above. As we climbed higher and higher, a tablecloth started to form on top. The weather cooled, but we were hot from climbing the almost constant stairway in front of us. There were people of all ages climbing it, even little old ladies. It took us about 2.5 hours to reach the top. We were exhausted. After having a gin and tonic on top, we decided to take the cable car down. The views improved. That is Table Mountain in the background. The next day, it was time for something relaxing. We decided to go wine tasting in the famous Stellenbosch wine country.
Yeah, South Africa.
Our tour consisted of visiting 2 wineries, admiring the views, eating good food, and wandering around downtown Stellenbosch.
Yeah.
It was a half-day private tour. At the Fairview Winery, we got a tour of the areas where they make the wine. At Fairview, we consumed the wine with a variety of 7 cheeses. Guess how many glasses of wine went with that? That's right, 7 each. After drinking all of that wine, I was really hungry. Luckily, Marianne, our second winery, allowed us to order a charcuterie board with a variety of African meats. Here we had another 7 glasses of wine. After, we walked around downtown Stellenbosch, bringing our tour to a close. Next, it was time to go to Johannesburg for safari. We saw giraffes, lions, kudu, and impala right away on our safari.
Yes, the lions that kill the...
These lions had just killed an impala, and a flock of vultures gave away their location. This is the white rhino, the bigger, but less dangerous of the rhinos. Across our 3-day safari at the Greenfire Lodge we saw lots of giraffes and elephants.
They just keep feeding,
We were lucky enough to see these 2 elephants fighting. They just kept going at it. We thought they were young males just play fighting. We then stumbled upon African buffalo. We saw lots of babies and a couple of buffalo fighting. Soon we stumbled upon more giraffes at sunset, and our guide said it was time to get out of the vehicle and enjoy wine with the giraffes. At first we were shocked, but our guide assured us that everything had been done to ensure that no lions were around. Soon we were relaxed, enjoying wine and snacks with the giraffes and zebras. Little did we know that there was a hyena lurking behind us, until my sister shouted, "Look!" We turned and saw a hyena dash past us in the not too far distance. Zebras, giraffes, and elephants all help each other out with their various strengths of sight, smell, and hearing. That is why they sleep relatively near each other.
Wake up time.
Soon it was time for the giraffes to go to bed. They sleep exactly how you see them in this video. If the giraffes were to lay their head down, their circulation would be cut off and they would die.
There's a zebra there too.
Like whacking its friends, how are you?
Sure enough, not too far from the giraffes and zebras, we came across more elephants. That's symbiosis. The next day, we found more impala and continued our search for the ever-elusive leopard. We also found a yellow-billed hornbill. Soon we came across more elephants,
We're sorry.
including one that had a 3-day-old baby that was still unsteady on its feet.
Oh, what a cutie.
We also came across the black rhino, the smaller and more dangerous of the rhinos. The national park removes their horns to save the rhinos from poachers. In addition, we found more zebras. Our guide called them a donkey in pajamas. Although we did not find the leopard, we came across these two brothers that had been kicked out of the pride. They will stick together until they mature. Later, we did find a dead impala up a tree, which is a sign the leopard had been there earlier. What a cool adventure! You are probably wondering if we encountered any crime in South Africa. We did not encounter any of the much hyped smash and grabs or bag snatching. However, a lady staying at our service apartment in Cape Town got mugged outside of it. We did have a guy at Cape Town International Airport come up to us and tell us that they had 2 Ubers ready, but we did not take his offer because we did not arrange it through the app. Also, in Cape Town, a guy rushed up behind my sister on a motorcycle, possibly with the intention of robbing her because that is what they do. Then he saw the doorman and I and stopped. We also had an instance where the Uber driver kept running the app well after he dropped us off, thus costing us more money. I eventually just canceled his joyride. Just make sure you are smart and aware of your surroundings at all times. It is also best to roam in groups. If you do those things, you should be fine. Make sure you keep cash on you, as it comes in handy. We decided to Uber from Camps Bay in Cape Town to the Cape of Good Hope. The driver insisted he wait for us, as it would be impossible for us to find another Uber to take us back. How much would that cost total? We replied, 200 Rand? No, $2,300 total, replied Price, the Uber driver. We agreed to the deal. Later we found out that the app charges for the driver to sit around and wait for us. We had no idea how much the Uber app actually charged, so we debated canceling Prince and taking our chances finding another Uber. In the end, we made Prince cancel the job in the app and decided to pay him the remaining half in cash. We pitched it as a win-win. We get to pay the price we agreed on and Prince does not have to share 50% of his income with Uber, thus keeping more money for himself. He agreed and complied with our request. A cool thing about South Africa are the names of the drivers. They have names like Timba, Blessing, and Prince. Those are my safety recommendations if you are going to South Africa. Also, do not be surprised if your hotel or complex you are staying in has a guard and is surrounded by a wall with an electric fence. This is normal. It is also normal to experience frequent power outs throughout the day and night. These are called load shedding events and are necessary to keep the power grid from getting overloaded. so be prepared and bring a headlamp and charge your electronics when you get a chance. I hope you have found the information in this video helpful.